and welcome to another episode of the Family Gamers Podcast. This is episode 395.
Hey, hello everybody. We are so excited to be doing this show. We're back to a normal schedule after doing a show a little bit early, which means it's been a little while since we've done this.
Been a little while.
Yeah. Who are the people that it's been a while since they've done this? That is us, the Family Gamers. As always, I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm joined by my lovely and wonderful and amazing and long-suffering wife, Anitra.
That's me.
Especially the long-suffering part.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, this week we have on the show, we're going to talk about some board game jargon. I asked a backtalk question 2 shows ago.
Yeah,
and
a month ago.
To let it fester a little bit. So we got some really good feedback about some terms that people, wanted to know a little bit more about. And we're going to kind of talk about that and what I think some of the ramifications of using board game jargon are. Second half of the show, but it is not the second half of the show yet. You may or may not have noticed.
Probably.
It is the first half of the show. I got a fact for you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked before about the fact that we live in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think I may have mentioned on the Facebook group lately that it snowed.
Yeah, it snowed today in the middle of April. But anyway, so yeah, we live in Massachusetts, and we actually live really close to a highway in central Massachusetts called 290. This is called 290 because it branches off of the
90.
Mass Pike, which is Route 90. But when you go south on 290, it magically turns into a different road. It becomes Route 395.
At 90, I think, is where it becomes.
I don't think it's quite at 90. It's a little bit south. I don't even really know.
Anyway.
It doesn't matter. It becomes 395, and that's actually not too far from us either. 395 brings you into Connecticut, but I'm going to be honest with you, that is a boring highway.
Yes.
Consequently, it is a boring fact. What's not boring is a highway that some people call the most beautiful highway in the United States, California's Route 395.
I see.
So what I've done is I've included a link in the show notes. Technically, I've provided it to Anitra, who will include it in the show notes, from an article on roadtrippers.com that talks about 10 can't-miss stops along this highway. I don't want to spoil them all, but suffice to say, there's some really cool stuff on there, like hot springs. You always see pictures of people like sitting in like weird stone formations and stuff like that. Like they have some of those. There's gorgeous scenery. They even have a national monument on Route 395 in California. So that's the fact this week. There's an amazing highway in California, like a lot of other amazing things in California, and some not so amazing things in California. But anyway, Route 395 is hundreds of miles long. Go check it out.
Cool. I have a message from our sponsor. Did you know that 401k you have from an old employer may be getting weighed down by fees? Brightscope recently reported that average fees for small plans range between 1.5% and 2%, with plenty of plans paying more than 2% a year in fees. Luckily, your 401k has to report the fees that you're paying, so if you look at your statements carefully, the fees should be in there. To give some context, if you left $10,000 in an old 401k that was charging a 2% administration fee, 20 years later, that fee would have cost you $5,000 or pretty close to it. If you want help looking at your 401k to make sure that you're not overpaying, go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers and set up a time to chat for free.
Thanks so much to First Move Financial for sponsoring another episode of the show.
So, Andrew, we've been playing some games.
Yeah, we went on a trip. We brought a lot of games, and we even played most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
So where to start, Anitra?
Well, why don't we start with the one that we brought on this trip, literally just like pulled it out and be like, we've never played this, it's small.
Oh my gosh.
Let's give it a shot.
Man, this game took some tables over.
Yeah, so
at the party.
This game is Order Overload Cafe. This is an Oink game that I asked you to bring me back from Essen. What was that, 2 years ago now?
More than that.
2.5 years ago?
Dear. Yeah, I think I went in 22.
Whenever that was. It was a while ago. And literally, after getting it home, I looked at it and was like, there's a memory game and it's cooperative. And I don't think our family is going to want to play it. So at some point, I'll find an audience. And until then, it's just going to sit here. I was at the point where I was like, you know what? I'm never going to find the right group to play this game with. I'm just going to move on from it as we talk about, needing to do. And Andrew convinced me to bring it on the trip. We'll give it a shot. And we did, and we had fun. It was a lot harder than we expected, but we had fun with it. In the more or less official company game night, somebody grabbed it asked me how to play it. Since we had played it, I was able to explain it, which was nice. And the group sat there. First of all, they added in a 7th player. The game's only supposed to go up to 6. Adding a 7th player makes it harder. And they figured out how they were going to add in a 7th player. And then they sat there and played it over and over and over and over again until they could beat the entire game.
Which is completely insane.
Especially because this is the kind of group you would normally expect to see at an event like this. If they were playing games at all, it would be like Cards Against Humanity or LCR or something else that is mostly luck and laughing and just
look, they
goofy.
were laughing and being goofy.
They were laughing, but mostly it got really quiet and intense. And then all of a sudden there would be these huge loud cheers that you could hear from anywhere in the room.
It was awesome.
It was amazing. And it reminded me not to hold back a game because I feel like somebody might not be ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
With kids, it's one thing, but with an adult, if they want to try it, I need to not be like, I don't know. Be like, okay, give it a shot. And hey, if you don't like it, quit. Don't play. It's fine. Mm-hmm. And that encouraged us to then play it at home when we got home, and we had a whole lot of fun with it at home as well.
I think the kids liked it better than you expected them to.
Way better. I think it would not have gone over as well 2 to 3 years ago.
That's probably true. And it was, by the way, 2022 that I went to.
Okay. So it's been a while.
All right. The second, most game that we played during this couple of weeks was Trio. Unsurprisingly, we taught Trio to a whole bunch of people. We played Circus Flocati a couple of times.
I played Circus Flocati a bunch of times. I love showing this off to people because there's so little setup to get going. You pull out the deck, you shuffle, and you say, okay, let's go. There's no dealing, no nothing. You flip out the first card.
So did we launder this game? Well, what did we do with this game?
We did not launder it. We had been playing it with different groups, and then we played it with some British friends, and they were like, wow, this game is amazing. I want to buy it. And they found out that they could not buy it on amazon.co.uk. And so we offered to just sell them our copy, our 25th Century Games copy, because we can get another copy later.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the weekend, I did kind of feel like we were laundering games to people, though. It just like, you have a game, and you have a game, and you have a game.
Yeah, by the way, this conversation reminded me, and I just ordered our copy of Circus Flocati.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What else did we play? Of course, we got in some plays of Anomia.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a big hit. And we only played 1 or 2 games of Green Team Wins, but a lot of Green Team Wins was played.
Yup.
The other thing, just like I predicted, a month ago, is that we played a lot of Landmarks. Landmarks was the surprising standout hit of the weekend. Even your boss came by and was like, well, let me see how this game works. I don't want to get too sucked in. And by the next round, he was the Pathfinder clue giver person, figuring out how to get everybody to go where they needed to go.
Yeah, it was interesting. I should follow up with him and just be like, so, what did you think of this game? We talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious, especially a couple of weeks separated from it, right?
Sure.
We also played a little bit more Alpina.
We did. That's going to be our snap review in the show this week.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Floristry. Again, some more Floristry. Love this game.
I really love
game.
Floristry.
Yeah. I learned how to play Farkle. I had actually never played Farkle before. And apparently there's multiple versions of the rules. So I spent the entire weekend giving somebody a hard time because he pulled up 2 different versions of the rules. I was like, oh, now that it's your turn, it's those rules. I see.
Now you get more points for the thing.
So, no, that was, it's just a dice game, so it was pretty fun.
We also played some more In the Footsteps of Marie Curie, and our review for that went up last week.
Yep. That is a fantastic game. It's so nice.
Everything fits together really nicely in that game. It is not as complicated as it looks like it should be. It is not as long as it looks like it should be, but it doesn't feel like it's too short. I'm really, really liking that game. I think once you get over the initial hump of it looks like it's going to be this crunchy, hard to understand game, but there's several elements that have specific places on the board and you only touch them at specific times in the game. Get going, and it's mostly throwing cubes in the tower and then seeing what you can do with the cubes that come out.
Yeah, I can definitely understand how somebody might look at this and be kind of daunted by the game and the setup and stuff like that. But
I was the first time we played.
Kind of walk through the steps. It falls together very quickly.
It really does, yeah.
It's a great game.
You also showed me Disney Lorcana Gateway.
Oh, I did. I didn't put that in my thing. I forgot about that. So Disney Lorcana Gateway, this is basically an intro to Lorcana.
Yeah.
I don't know what the price point is on this. I'm guessing it's like $25.
It's not that much, yeah.
But what this is 2 very simple decks with like 4 or 5 expansion packs that you open as you accomplish some tasks. So you play Lorcana. It walks you through how to play Lorcana. The initial deck is stacked, so it knows what the top 7 cards are. And even in the rulebook, it says, these should be your top 7 cards.
Yeah, this should be your starting hand, and then shuffle the rest of the deck.
Right. And the cards that you get are very simplified. It's got a much smaller set of skills associated with it. Like, so we just opened the first pack. Is it a spoiler if I kind of explain what the first
I don't think
is?
so.
Okay. So we just opened the first kind of expansion pack after accomplishing the goals that are set forth in the rulebook. And all of the cards in the expansion pack are songs, which are kind of like instants if you're
a Magic the Gathering player.
If you're a Magic person. But also they're instants that instead of tapping the requisite amount of ink, which is instead of lands to get mana, you can tap a character that exceeds a threshold of power to have that character sing the song instead of using ink to pay for the song, right? And then the songs do, all sorts of different things. So it's layering mechanics on, and it's getting progressively more complex. I don't know what's in the rest of the packs, right? We have to work our way through them.
Yeah, we haven't looked at it yet.
But it's really, really nicely done. And like mechanically, like I like the game Lorcana. I mean, it's pretty much Magic, but you can pick to attack your opponent's cards, which are characters. But you're never attacking your opponent. You're trying to get lore. It's a race to get 20 lore instead of a race to beat your opponent into the dust.
Yeah, the only reason to attack the other characters is to either slow the other person down from getting lore or stop them from attacking you.
Right.
And so it's funny because it's definitely got a lot of the same bones to it as like a Magic the Gathering. But like you said, instead of attacking the other player and bringing them down from 20 health, you instead have this other thing of questing for lore or whatever, which is to get up to 20 lore on the scoreboard.
So I think my biggest negative to this is that the game comes with a board that you put down, and it's got this is where you put your ink, this is your discard pile, this is where you put your deck, this is where you play your characters. It's just not big enough. It's not big enough, and it's a shared kind of lore counter track thing with
which is also not great,
which are just too big for this thing. Track your 20 separately.
Yeah.
And get rid of the board and you're fine. I get it maybe for the first game, but after that, it's just, I don't ever think we're going to take the board out again, except for when we do the snap review.
Yeah. This is not a game that needs a board.
Right.
Frankly.
It's not. I mean, I think it would be helpful to have a little card that kind of gives players the idea of this is generally how you orient your stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's a table game.
Yeah,
so
or
once you kind of convey that idea once, whatever they want to do after that is fine.
Yeah, I'm sure part of the idea here is that it's giving you a structure that you're going to be able to tell that you can move on from and not need that board later.
I hope so. There are no rules, everybody.
I mean, I was about to suggest individual player mats, but then I was like, oh, that's kind of the point, is this is going to be a gateway to you to also buy more Lorcana.
That's true.
Stuff.
Listen, this is Disney. If anybody can commercialize anything,
oh my goodness,
it's Disney, right? So,
no kidding.
I mean, big props to Ravensburger for coming out with this thing, for landing this contract, because I'm sure it's printing money right now. But look, it's fun. It's $25. It's fun. And if you get your kids hooked on Lorcana, they're not going to have any money for drugs. So why not?
Well, and frankly, from everything I see so far, Lorcana is a lot less complex at the high end than Magic the Gathering.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can say that yet, because you have seen nothing.
I know I haven't seen everything, but there aren't as many suits. There aren't as many.
There will be
different ways to.
There will be.
Okay. Maybe you're right. It just seems more approachable to me than Magic, because I'm at the point where I understand the basic rules of Magic, but if you threw a bunch of cards at me and told me to make a deck, I would not be able to.
Yeah, but I think
never mind play.
I think that's going to be the case with any one of these games. Is you'd have to know your cards before you can do anything. I mean, every CCG is like that.
Sure,
Lorcana is no different.
So anyway, enjoying Disney Lorcana Gateway so far. And yeah, we definitely need to play some more of it to unlock some more packs and make sure that we understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will happily sit down and play it. Like, I'll play it with Asher, I'll play it with you, I'll play it with Elliot. I don't really care. It's fine.
Sure.
I kind of have a sense of how it all works now, so I feel like it's a much smoother on-ramp. It's just a little daunting, because there's so many cards.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, now I got to figure out what all these do, but they do a really good job of making it extremely simple.
Yeah, stepping you through it.
Yep.
Little by little.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Ding dong. Hey, everybody. This is your friendly editor, Andrew, here. I just want to let you know that while editing the show, I actually took a look at the price of Lorcana Gateway on the internet. It is about $10 at Walmart and about $12.49 at Target. That looks like that's probably the list price. So for under $15, this is a screaming deal to get you in and get you started learning about how to play Lorcana. All right, back to the show.
One more game to talk about. We finally opened up a escape room game that I think your mom gave us like a year ago.
My mom gave it to us for Christmas 2023.
Yay!
We finally
got there.
it to the table this week.
This was Escape from the Starline Express. So it's an escape room game. You're solving puzzles to move on to new train cars to give you more puzzles to move on, etc., and solve the mystery.
Yeah, this was Professor Puzzle Presents Escape Room Games.
Yes.
That's kind of the brand around this thing.
Generally speaking, it was fine.
Yeah, I found it was a little bit easier than a lot of the, harder exit stuff that we do. I mean, this was like an easy exit box.
Yeah. And unlike an exit box, there weren't really any points in the game where we're like, I don't know what we're supposed to do here.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of moments where, like, it was not immediately obvious, but there was nothing where we just felt like we were beating our heads against the wall.
Yeah, not really. And the way they did this was kind of interesting. Each of the train cars was like a folded up paper.
It was like an envelope. Yeah.
With a sticker on it, but the stickers were not permanent stickers. They were designed to be pulled off and put back on as long as you were careful. So the game, like, there's some stuff where you'll open a train car and, like, you punch some pieces out of a little cardboard thing, but, like, you could put it all back together and tape it all up, which is what we did, and put it all in the box, and it's functionally non-destructible, not destructive.
Yeah, it's one of those games where there are one or two puzzles where you could write or draw directly on the materials, but you don't have to make it work.
Right, and it's not like, I mean, I've talked to some friends who are so against the idea of destructive stuff or whatever that, like, they'll photocopy the exit book.
Yeah.
And it's not at that level. It's a very low amount of effort to prevent yourself from destroying this thing.
Right. That's exactly the thing. We're not against destructible games, but also we didn't have to destroy this one.
Right.
So it was enjoyable. Would I recommend it? Sure.
Yeah, why not? Like, if it's there, go nuts. All right, and that brings us to that thing, because it is now the next month, even though it's the 11th.
We are halfway through April, so it's time for the March monthly report.
Yeah. Wow, my HNX was 2. This is abysmal.
Whoo, boy. Well, but you are notorious about not recording multiple plays of a game in the same session.
Yeah, because I feel like you take the game out and you play the game.
I don't know, man. If we played, like, 4 games of Trio in a row, I'm going to put down 4 games of Trio.
I don't know. Anyway, I speaking of Trio, that is my number 1 game at 3 plays. And then at 2 plays, I have Anomia, Project L, Order Overload Cafe, and Obelus. So lots of things at 2. My highest player count is easily 2.
Sure.
Wait.
Your highest player count is 2?
Not like the highest player count ever, like the highest percentage of games played were played at 2 players. I am 39% at home and 39% on that trip.
I'm going to share right now, I was 46% of the games I played in March were on that trip.
See, that's because I literally have to talk to people on that trip for my job.
Yeah, that 46% also does not count the couple of games that I played on the airplane by myself.
Whatever. Yeah. 40% of the games that I played in March, I played on Saturdays.
So that's more than me. I played 33% on Saturdays.
So that's where we are.
So how many games did you play in total, Andrew?
23 games played, 17 unique games. What about you, dear?
I definitely think you have more than 23 plays. I think it's that thing I was talking about before. I have 48 plays of 28 unique games.
Mm-hmm. More unique games than I have total plays. Awesome.
My H index is frankly, a really impressive 4.
Wow, that is pretty impressive for 1 month, yeah. And
my most played game is Trio.
I don't believe it.
I played Trio 6 times. And if I look back, I'm going to bet that almost all those times were with you. But
that makes sense.
I also played Mezzin, Landmarks, and Circus Flocati 4 times each.
That is impressive. When did you play Mezzin 4 times?
I played it solo a couple of times to prepare for our review.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I played it with people, and then I played it solo. And I played it solo twice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I like it better as a solo game.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, all right, Anisha, I think it is time for us to welcome some new members of the Family Gamers community. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's been a month, so we have a lot of new members this month.
All right, and then we're gonna, after that, I think it is time for a For Science. What do you think?
I'm down.
All right. We got a special international For Science this week.
We do.
All right, so I'm gonna get us started because I really want to try this thing out. I'm gonna say welcome to Samantha.
Welcome to Tabitha.
Welcome to Shane.
And Sri.
Welcome to Amanda.
And Copeland.
Welcome to Ekondayo.
And Jennifer.
And Robin.
And Blaine.
And Piotrus.
Welcome to James.
Welcome to Leonardo.
Welcome to Zamar.
And welcome to Matthew.
And there were a couple more people I couldn't tag. Welcome to you too.
Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know. Facebook is weird. Nothing we can do about that. But welcome to the Family Gamers community. We are super excited to have you along. Feel free to go over and say hello to our new friends.
Yeah.
All right. Anitra, what is up with this For Science?
Well, friend of the show, Mark Spector, Grand Poobah of Grand Gamers Guild, recently went on a trip to Australia, and he sent us Australia's Violet Crumble. It's the way it shatters that matters. That is what it says on the packaging. The packaging is a brilliantly royal purple.
Yeah. It looks like, like package-wise, like size-wise, it's like an oversized Snickers or an oversized, like, Three Musketeers. Like, that's the style of bar that it looks like on the outside. I don't know what it is on
the overall look of it makes me think like a Butterfinger.
Yeah. But it's bigger. Like, I'm talking size.
Yeah.
Like, Butterfingers are a
But
little
also,
flatter.
this is completely gluten-free and not at all vegan or even vegetarian. It's got stuff in here besides just milk.
It's a meat bar?
It's not a meat bar, but it's got gelatin in it, and it says what animal the gelatin comes from.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Oh, it's not fake gelatin.
Australia has different labeling standards than the US does.
All right.
Oh, good. It already is coming apart in pieces.
Okay.
So.
All right. Do we want to break this piece in half and use this, or do we want to try something else?
I will break off a piece as well. There we go.
All right. We're going to give each of the bigger piece because she is sweet. Here it goes.
It smells like
sugar. Chocolate. It smells like not Hershey's chocolate, like a sweeter chocolate.
It doesn't smell like chocolate to me. I'm smelling the center part, and the center part just smells like sugar.
Right, okay. Kind of a butterscotchy kind of inside.
So I think I'm not wrong that the center is mostly just sugar.
It's sparkly.
I thought at first taste that this was going to be the kind of sugar that just melts in your mouth. And it sort of is, except there's so much of it that it's extremely crunchy before it melts.
Yeah, it's got like a caramel toffee kind of a flavor to it. So it's definitely sugar.
Yeah, it's sugar flavored.
Yeah, that's not bad. I definitely think it's the opposite of Snickers, right? This does not satisfy. Like, you can tell, like, once you've consumed the sugar, it's gone, right?
This is sugar and air wrapped in chocolate.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the flavors that aren't directly part of the chocolate are like honeycomb, sugar, gelatin, and sodium bicarbonate. That's where the airiness comes from. Mm-hmm. There's baking soda in there. Interesting.
I don't know where the violet comes from. I
don't
the
either.
Crumble.
I definitely get the crumble and the shatter.
Like, if I go to Australia and I'm, walking through a supermarket or something, I see violet crumble, I'd be like, I remember that. It was pretty good. I'll get one of those.
Yeah, I would be like, I remember that. It was fine.
Yeah, not bad. So Violet Crumble, Australia's own Violet Crumble.
Yeah.
Gets a thumbs up for science. And with that, I think it's probably time to go to break. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Okay.
We'll be right back. wonder, have you ever been to the Alps?
No, but I've been to Germany. That's as close as I ever got. How about you?
I've been to the Rocky Mountains.
Anisha, you've been to a resort called Zermatt, but it was in Utah. And no,
It was.
the Rocky Mountains don't count. But it sounds like maybe you've got Switzerland on the brain.
A little bit. This is a snap review for Alpina.
Alpina is a game celebrating Switzerland's largest national park, situated in the Alps.
It was designed by Luke Redmond and published by Helvetic. Alpina is for 2 to 4 players to play in 20 minutes or less, and it's best for ages 10 and up.
All right, so let's talk about the art in Alpina. The art here is beautifully illustrated. Each card combines one of 3 animals, a bird, a goat, or a frog, with one of 3 landscapes, mountains, lakes, or forests.
The bottom of every card has scoring conditions, which are marked only with numbers and icons. Besides the cards, there are very cute hiker meeples in 4 colors, plus clever pieces that clip onto the edges of the box for scorekeeping.
So let's talk about the mechanics of Alpina. How do we actually play this game?
Well, you start the game by placing any goat card in the center of the table. Then deal 6 cards to each player and give them a number of hiker meeples, depending on the player count. Choose a player to go first, then take turns clockwise.
On your turn, you must play a card from your hand, and it must be orthogonally adjacent to at least one other card on the table. Players will gradually form a 5x5 grid of cards, and no card can be placed outside those bounds.
After playing a card, decide whether or not to place a hiker. This can be on the card you just played, or any empty card that's adjacent to it. Placing a hiker means that you will score victory points as indicated on this specific card at the end of the game.
At the end of your turn, draw another card from the deck.
The game ends when the 5x5 grid is full, and now it's time to calculate scores.
Every card that has a hiker meeple on it scores points for the owner of that meeple.
For example, this frog gets 2 points for every forest in its column. This bird gets 2 points for every unique animal that's to its right. And this goat gets a point for every frog card with a hiker on it.
Move the score markers around the box edge as you calculate each player's score. When you've finished tallying everything up, the player with the most points wins. Shocker, I know. So Anitra, it's that time again. What did we expect from Alpina?
I don't know, it's lovely. I liked the idea of creating a grid and the asymmetric scoring conditions.
I love the small box game approach, and I've always appreciated Helvetic's take on games. There's usually a lot of similarity with other games on the market, but there's usually a unique twist as well. I also kind of love this flat, like cell-shaded style of art.
Yeah, we saw that in Strato as well.
Yes, we did.
So let's talk about surprises. I had both good and bad surprises on this one. Let's tackle the bad one first. The symbology used here is a lot. Each scoring condition has a combination of 2 or 3 symbols used to indicate how it scores, and there's over a dozen different symbols that are used. Sadly, the rulebook doesn't list each symbol separately. It just gives a dozen examples of different kinds of scoring conditions. I taught this to a group of friends, and I ended up having to be constantly on hand to answer their questions. What does this card do? How about this one? What does this mean? I could not step away at all during the game, and that was really frustrating. But on the plus side, being faced with all the different symbols over that game forced me to learn them all. Now when I play Alpina, I might have an unfair advantage because I don't have to consult the rulebook anymore for all those examples. Now for my good surprise, just how much tactics there are in this game. The dual nature of the cards forced me to keep swapping back and forth to think of both aspects of every card, how it could be used for its scoring condition, and how it could contribute to the goals that I'd already committed to. You'll always have more turns than you have meeples to place, which means you have to put out some cards without using their scoring conditions. Having a meeple left to use on your final turn can be very rewarding, but only if you can hang on to a card that will work for you at the end of the game. And playing cards without meeples in the early game opens up opportunities to your opponents to grab goals that might work well for them.
This game reminded me a lot of the Ecosystem series of games from Genius Games, where everyone is playing cards into their own grid, and the card placement impacts scoring of all of the other cards. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
The twist here is that the game is actually a little bit simpler. Players are playing into a central grid, but they're using their hiker meeples to only score the cards that they claim. This makes the game a lot more interactive with other players, which, if you've watched or listened to anything that I talk about all the time, is something I actually really like. In this way, Alpina reminds me of games like Sunset Over Water, but I actually find myself enjoying Alpina a little bit more. I'd love to see a variant or an expansion here that provides a little bit of asymmetry in the form of unique goals or something like that, but since it doesn't have anything like that, I actually think this game could flex to a younger age like 7 or 8. Finally, I do totally agree with Anitra that there are a ton of symbols in this game. Given that this is only a 2 to 4 player game, it might have been nice if there were multiple player aids that could be shared, or maybe even just one for each person.
I disagree that this game could go much younger. You have to juggle a lot of different goals in your head, even once you're solid on the symbols. And I wish there was a way to put multiple scoring markers on the same number on this track on the box to show when scores are tied. The pieces are too wide, or maybe the tracking spots are too narrow to fit more than one on any number. The idea is really clever, but the implementation is more annoying than it is helpful.
All right, well, it's that time because it's what we do. Would we recommend Alpina?
I would tentatively recommend it. The learning curve on this game is harder than I really wanted it to be. And if you're introducing it to kids, you'll really want someone to sit out that first game to keep explaining all the symbols.
But, like Anitra said, once you get the hang of all the symbols, Alpina becomes a game that's strategically interesting while staying pretty speedy. And since it's only a stack of cards and a few wooden meeples, it's really easy to set up and pick up when you're done.
We give Alpina 3.5 animals out of 5.
And that's Alpina in a snap.
And we're back.
All right, so Anitra, we are going to talk about gamer jargon, and a lot of this is really precipitated by our back talk.
Almost all of it. Because we asked our community members to share about board game terms they wanted us to define or do a deep dive on. And what we wound up with was a lot of talk around confusing or jargony board game terms.
Yeah, so we figured we'd talk about those very things.
So starting right off at the beginning, Peter Schott asked, most terms I have familiarity with. Those that I don't, I probably don't even know they exist. So are there some obscure terms or brand new terms out there that could be covered?
So, I mean, I thought about this a little bit, and I don't know that there's that many brand new terms. I mean, there are portmanteau kind of terms,
new
like
combinations.
Co-opetition kind of things, but there's no brand new. I mean, in the same way that, like, when Dominion came out, it invented deck building, right?
It's funny that you say that because I just saw something the other day that said it was a deck breeding game. And so it's one of those, I do see a lot of that within the really hobby board games of like, let's take this term that's already jargony and and twist it a little bit further. Mm-hmm. So like Abandon All Artichokes is a deck wrecking game. And
yeah, but
this game is now a deck breeding game because it's got some combination of deck building plus hand management, something that like cards will multiply in your hand or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are really combinations of multiple different kinds of mechanics. In the case of Abandon All Artichokes, it's deck building, but
deck building in reverse.
Yeah, it's kind of like the negative space of deck building
Yeah.
is this game, right? So it's a twist on a standard mechanic, and we kind of give it a new name, but it's not really making a new kind of term in the same way. I mean,
Sure.
I guess it's something where you could say it, and then somebody could say, I don't know what that means. So in that way,
Yeah.
it's fair. But, this is one of those, okay, define the word without saying the word kind of things, right?
Oh, we're going to get into another one of those.
Yeah, for sure. Both Kristen and Ken asked about the term Eurogame, like what defines a Eurogame, and then Ken also added, in contrast, what is Ameritrash?
Yeah, so let's dive into that.
Yeah, okay, absolutely, we can totally do that.
I looked up a definition of a Eurogame because I felt
nerd.
like... Well, no, because I felt just like Kristen. I know what it means. I could give examples, but trying to define it.
Yeah, I know it when I see it.
So, according to Wikipedia, and also BGG. A Eurogame is also called a German-style board game. This sort of nomenclature became popular in the 1990s. Eurogames are notable for what they aren't. They don't have player elimination.
Mhm.
They don't have direct conflict.
They do have conflict, but it's not like fighting.
Right. If they have conflict at all, because some of them don't, it's indirect. It's competing for common resources or something like that.
Yep.
And they usually have very little luck and randomness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because it's all about the hard strategy.
Usually, like, what luck and randomness they have is usually something where something is revealed that is random or lucky, and then everyone has to deal with it.
Yeah, like a card, like there's a deck of cards, one card is revealed per round or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think like Power Grid or something where like the market is changing, but that's
Sure,
available to everybody.
Yep.
So most Eurogames have very little player interaction, competing for limited resources or limited spots. They require a lot more forethought and planning to really get into and enjoy the game. Eurogames usually emphasize elegant mechanics instead of being a slave to their theme.
Well, or even having a theme at all. Like the kind of the
I mean, a pure abstract is not a Euro game.
Well, the descriptive of Euro is the classic themeless Euro. Like that's a kind of a term, right, that is used frequently. And there's a consequence to that, which is that a Euro game like might have good box art, but generally speaking, it's pretty bland inside.
A classic Euro, yes, because this is the other thing is these definitions have changed a little bit over time.
Absolutely.
So that's why I keep saying a classic Euro. So some examples of a classic Euro, Catan.
Yeah. Right. So, and Catan is a perfect example of this, right? So there's a box with some interesting stuff on it, but then when you open it, like the tiles are different.
It's a bunch of
enough-
hexes.
Yeah, the tiles are different enough so that you know what the different terrains are, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And then
There's
everything
art
else
on the
is
cards.
wooden boxes.
Yeah.
Right?
There's
So-
art on the cards, but that's about it.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's not. Like the soldier art is reused on every single card, pretty much, and things like that. And that's just that's just the design because it's all facilitating the elegant mechanics.
Right.
That's what it's for.
Carcassonne would be another example.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Your farmer lies down in his field. What? And one of our previous favorites, Puerto Rico. I also mentioned Power Grid. That's another example. All of these are games where, there's some randomness. Carcassonne, it's in what tile you draw. Puerto Rico, it's in who gets what resource tiles and when. Catan,
I mean, that's not really random, right? I think it's
little
what
sets.
What cubes come out of the bag is random.
In Puerto Rico, it's the it's those tiles that go into your plantation. Those come out as random sets, and then they get divvied up.
And then people can draft from them.
Yeah. So all of this comes together. That's a typical classic Euro.
When I think of the classic Euro, the biggest thing that I think of is no player elimination. That's the biggest thing.
That is a big thing.
Because everybody plays to the end of the game. And by the way, that as a mechanic is something that has been adopted by a lot of other games.
Yes.
Right? A deck builder is not a Euro, but most of the time you're playing until someone wins. Right. And that's really important, by the way, in a family environment, because the last thing you want to do is be like, well, you're out, so I guess go fold your laundry.
Yep.
I mean, that just doesn't sit well. So the elimination of player elimination is a good thing.
Yes.
In a lot of games, I think.
I would say that in most Euro games, most of the time, you also aren't going to have a runaway winner. Which is different than player elimination, but sometimes it feels very similar of like, why should I even bother? You're obviously going to win.
Yeah, playing out the string, right? I'm not
most of these games, most of the time. I have definitely seen it happen. But a lot of the Euro games are designed to keep some of your points secret or things like that where it's not going to be super obvious who the winner's going to be until you reach the very end of the game.
Okay.
Maybe that's more of a modern Euro thing.
Well, so I think we've kind of hammered on Euros a little bit. So we can take that and look at the opposite, if you will. So you have Europe and America, or American-style games, or Ameritrash games. Some people say Ameritrash games, or whatever it might be. So what's the difference here? I mean, pretty much they're the opposite. American games or Ameritrash games typically are very heavy on theme. There's often a lot of luck in a game that would be called an Ameritrash game. It certainly sounds like a negative connotation, right?
I have not really heard the term Ameritrash used in the last 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing it when we started to get into this podcast and being really serious about the board gaming hobby. I have not heard it because I think it is more derogatory.
It certainly seems more derogatory.
Yeah. So we'll call them American style games.
Whatever. I mean, look, we don't mean it in a negative way. It's a conveniently short term. It doesn't matter.
Yes. And Ken asked about it. So.
Yeah. It's not our fault, Ken. Come on.
So in addition to being heavy on theme and luck, they pretty much always encourage direct conflict. This may have player elimination. It doesn't always, but a lot of the time it does.
Mm-hmm.
Usually with these American style games, the theme informs the mechanics. So this is not the kind of game where you could cut and paste and be like, oh, well, I like this game, but what if we did it with this theme instead? Which you definitely can do with most Euros.
With a lot of Euros, sure.
I have also noticed that these are the kind of games that are likely to have an excessive amount of minis.
I don't necessarily know that that's true. Here's what I would say about Ameritrash games. Ameritrash games, for me, feel very much like games that are influenced by a culture that really loves video games.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And hopefully that means something to you, because that kind of helps you form a little bit of an opinion about what that kind of game is going to be. It's going to be a game that's got some conflict in it. It's going to be a game that has probably got bright, saturated colors, strong theme, some luck, right? I mean, Not only is there conflict, it's probably combat.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the time it is. These are all things that you see in something that you would consider to be an Ameritrash game.
To give a couple of examples, because these are also not abstract games, and they're also not your classic American board game, family game like a Scrabble or a Monopoly or, something like that. It's these super theme heavy games. So I immediately think of Mythalix, which we reviewed, like 4 years ago now. That was very much just like, this is a game for teenage boys who want to, sit down with these really cool acrylic standees and just beat on each other mercilessly. Chase each other around the board and beat on each other.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's some real classics that would fall into this category. Cosmic Encounters, we've talked about before. That is kind of like... My story with Cosmic Encounters is I died before I played.
Yep. I have played a little bit of the Shovel Knight game, and being heavily themed on the very difficult Shovel Knight video game, same thing happened to me. It's a competitive game, and due to the way the board worked, I died immediately after my first turn, the first time we played.
Love it. But a lot of these kind of, mini games, like Anitra said, like Imperial Assault or, Star Wars Rebellion or any of those kind of things. I would even say like the Blood Rages of the world, Rising Sun, these games with, fancy minis, like you said, those would all be in this kind of category as well. And they're very much combat games, right? Like you would define Rising Sun or Blood Rage as an area control game, but there's ways to do area control that are not so combat heavy.
Yeah. I'm looking at a list right now that says Axis and Allies.
Sure, then if you're going to say that, then it's going to be like Risk and all of those kinds of games would fall into this category too.
Not every war game, but some war games. Yeah. But when I was doing some research on this, I saw somebody say that Dice Throne would be an Ameritrash game.
I mean, I guess with the definitions that we're describing, sure.
There's a lot of luck. It's direct combat, and each character, like the theme of each character, heavily influences the mechanics of how that character's like cards and powers work.
Sure.
So sure. And there is definitely player elimination in Dice Throne.
Well, I mean, yes.
And so then you would also say the same thing is probably true of Unmatched. So I would have never said that I liked this style of game, but then you pull in some of the direct combat games I enjoy and be like, okay, I think it fits under this umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, look, these definitions are loose definitions,
Yes.
right? We're talking about attributes that generally apply to games. So when someone says Euro, when someone says Ameritrash, you have a general idea of the kind of game they're talking about. I think you could sit down and say, is this a Euro game, and have a discussion about almost any game, right?
Yeah.
Probably even more so about the definition of Ameritrash. And so these are loose definitions, loose ideas, but hopefully this look at Euro and Ameritrash as terms has been helpful to kind of delineate between them, because they really are very contrasting of one another.
Yeah. I mean, I think both of these terms are kind of problematic when we talk about people who are brand new to board gaming, because they're like, I don't know what this thing is. And then even if we give a definition, there's a ton of disagreement over whether any particular game fits into one of these categories.
Yeah, I think it's, more true for some games than others, of course.
Sure.
But, yeah, I mean, speaking of imperfect terms that mean one thing to one person and something else to someone else, in the Discord chat, somebody mentioned the term straightforward. I think it was JP mentioned the term straightforward, and how straightforward is, like, we use it all the time. We do.
We do.
But it is a terrible term to use when describing board games.
Yeah. How JP put it is, if he's teaching a game and he describes it as straightforward, and then someone at the table struggles with the experience, they feel less than. They feel kind of dumb. So I can see why that would be an obstacle to gaming.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you and me, what we mean when we say a game is straightforward is it was easy for us to learn and it makes sense to us.
Yeah. I think it's okay to say maybe this was straightforward for me, right? And not kind of set that expectation on someone else that, oh, you should understand this. Why don't you understand? Because then you have all this kind of unspoken accusation along with that. And I think that's really what JP is getting into.
I think it's
almost
without intending to.
Yeah. It's almost like telling someone, well, I don't understand why you have problems with math. This is easy, right? It's the same thing.
I would step back a little bit and say, like, oh, we're going to do some easy math. And then when the person doesn't find it easy, they're like, I no longer believe anything you say.
Yeah.
We're going to play this game. It's super straightforward. Struggles to understand the game. I'm never playing games with you again.
Right.
And we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, so I think it's really a fraught term, right? It's something that we try to use to kind of describe simplicity or what we perceive to be simple, but
like it makes sense to me.
Yeah. But it doesn't help to say that something is straightforward. That doesn't actually help in any way.
Right.
Right.
So I think hearing this from JP is going to cause you and I to be a little bit more careful with our language, especially like in our reviews.
Shame on you, JP. I'm just kidding.
No, thank you, JP.
I'm just playing. Let's talk about what the Joyful Jedi says. He said that issues arise when multiple terms are used for a game. I guess it would be nice to have a percentage of each term in the game. And he says 50% hand management, 25% worker placement, 25% push your luck. And he got a lot of 100% on that one. So a lot of people agreeing with him. I agree with him too. If you go to BGG, you can see the different mechanics that are at play in any given game, but there's no weighting to those mechanics.
Yeah.
I think we say things like, oh, it's kind of like this, but it's kind of like that game. And it's got a little bit of this thrown in for flavor, that kind of language. But I don't know. I mean, I think it would be really hard to break it down into hard percentages like this.
Yeah, well, and some of these terms end up overlapping as it is. Like we've talked in the past about worker placement and action selection and resource management. All of those can in some ways refer to the same thing.
I mean, yes and no.
They don't necessarily have to. That's my point. You can have a resource management game that doesn't have action selection and worker placement. You can have a worker placement game that doesn't have action selection and resource management.
Okay.
But like
they can all apply to the same game.
They can all apply to
I thought you were saying that
similar aspects of the same game,
but not in the same step in the rules or in the mechanics or something like that.
Right. Well, but like I think there are a bunch of games out there that we would probably call worker placement, but you're placing a worker to do a specific action. Mm-hmm. So like that is worker placement as action selection.
Yeah, I mean, but action selection games imply typically that you are selecting an action to the exclusion of anybody else being able to select that action, which is not the same as worker placement often.
Right, but it can be.
Right.
I thought of another set of examples where they will often go together, but each one is its own thing, which is drafting often goes together with hand management, but again, it doesn't have to, and hand management doesn't have to involve drafting.
Sure.
And I've seen lots of games that have push your luck elements in along with either hand management or drafting, but I've also seen push your luck games that have none of that. So all of these things do overlap, and some of them go together more often than not. And it's one of the reasons why we do try to step back and break these things down at least once in a while.
We don't always do a great job, but we do the best we can.
All right, I got one more set of board gamer jargon that I think we could break down.
I'm ready.
The different names we have for the things you move around on a board. Because these are distinctions if you're a gamer. And if you are not a gamer, you're like, why are there so many different terms?
Like meeples and beeples and cheeples?
I mean, I was going to put all of that under meeple, but yes. So, from least complex to most complex.
There's a scale now. Okay,
there
here we
is.
go.
Least complex, pawn.
Okay.
I mean, maybe cube would be less complex, but cube seems self-explanatory. Pawn is a usually wooden, but sometimes plastic figure with very few details at all, just easy to pick up and move, different colors to show what player it belongs to.
Okay.
A step up from pawn is a meeple or anything in the meeple family, because now we have beeples and sheeples and I don't even know what all else, but
creeples,
bugpoles.
I feel like there's camp songs about this kind of thing.
Maybe. But meeple started out as my people, and it is a shaped pawn, usually wooden, that looks like vaguely a person or an animal or a specific thing, not just a generic pawn.
Do we have to pay royalties to Corey from Above Board TV for saying meeple now that he owns the trademark for meeple? So
I hope not.
It? Okay. Just checking.
I would say a step up in, I guess, complexity from that is what board gamers usually call a standee. So this is something with printed art on it. When I think standee, I usually think like the movers I had for Chutes and Ladders back in the day.
With the little plastic clip and there's
a little plastic clip at the bottom.
Stick into the top. Yeah. My favorite standees are acrylic standees.
Like from Mythalix.
Yeah. It's a clear piece of acrylic with a full color image of whatever the character is supposed to be. They're usually two-sided. They look amazing.
Yes.
I think they look better than minis, but you haven't said mini yet,
I haven't said
nobody
it yet.
knows what a mini is, apparently.
So one of the benefits to a standee is you get full art, whatever full art means for that game, and it's double-sided. So you can see the art on both sides. Usually. And then a step up from a standee is when you get to a mini. Minis can be more or less complex. We have seen some incredibly detailed complex ones over the years.
We have seen some minis that shouldn't be called minis. They should be called mids or maxes.
Maxis. But minis are always plastic, usually textured in some way, and it's like a 3D sculpt, a 3D model of the thing that you're representing.
You missed one, by the way.
I did.
Tokens.
I did miss tokens.
They're right there with cubes. They're usually like probably between cube and pawn.
It depends, actually. When you say token, I'm thinking like the tokens in Battlesheep, which are very nicely printed, although only on one side, and almost up there with a standee in terms of how they look and how they move. But you're right. Token is another way to indicate this is my thing. Yes. I am moving it here.
Mine. Yeah. So that's a lot of different terms that we use for all the different pieces of things that we use on our boards. I'm going to wrap this up with just a series of quotes from the Joyful Jedi. Very poetic. I like it all. He said, "It's so hard to be confused by concepts in the hobby when you've immersed yourself in it for years. Some terms are known to be wishy-washy." We talked about that a lot. Also, games don't always fit nicely in the boxes of the terminology.
We talked about that too.
We use them to help decide if we're going to like or dislike games, but really it's just a way of limiting our mental capacity to deal with an overwhelming number of choices. Also true.
Yeah.
Games are more than the mechanisms that make them up, and depending on your group dynamics at the time of play, you may be surprised by liking a certain type of game or have your biases confirmed.
And we talked about that in the first half of the show with what we've been playing.
Mm-hmm. Then some quotes. We are never more fully alive, more completely ourselves, or more deeply engrossed in anything than when we are playing. Charles Schaefer.
Do not keep children to their studies by compulsion, but by play. And that's from Plato.
Yeah, modern schools could learn a few things from him. I think.
You would think.
Whoever wants to understand much must play much. Gottfried Benn. But then the Joyful Jedi just takes it all and boils it down to one thing.
In other words, play games with your kids.
All right, Anitra. I think it's time for a new back talk question. What
yes,
do you think?
Please lay it on me.
So we just talked about Lorcana.
We did.
And I think, everybody's got a favorite Disney movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite Disney movie? I'm going to
I know what yours is.
Cheat on this one. Anitra knows what my favorite Disney movie is, period, which is...
The Sword and the Stone.
That is correct. That is 100% correct. However, I do want to give a shout out to the movie that has peak Disney music.
Okay.
Do you know what I believe to be peak Disney music?
I'm gonna guess The Lion King?
You are correct again!
It helps that we have that soundtrack, so that was a
hint.
So
good. Jeremy Irons singing anything is amazing.
Also,
Nathan Lane singing anything is amazing.
Also, Hans Zimmer, excellent composer.
Also true. Elton John. I mean, come on, people. Peak Disney music, The Lion King. I'll stand by it. I'll die on that hill.
I think mine is going to surprise you. At least a little bit.
You peak Disney music or favorite Disney movie?
I'm going to say favorite Disney movie.
Okay. Oh, the fact that you have to discern between the two. Okay. All right. Hit me.
My favorite Disney movie is Tangled.
Really?
I didn't even like it the first time I watched it, but I have watched it so many times.
Yeah.
But literally...
Better than Frozen.
It is better than Frozen. There is no part of that movie I don't enjoy, except for maybe the love song.
The one with the lanterns?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I thought you were going to say Aristocats, because that's another one with great music.
Big fan of that one. Big fan of Mulan.
Mm-hmm.
But Tangled in the last 6 or 7 years has become my favorite Disney movie.
It has reached meme status in our house.
That is also true.
Yeah. You cannot wash a frying pan in our house without a Tangled reference.
Frying pans. Who knew?
All right. So we've got The Sword and the Stone for me, Tangled for Anitra, and then The Lion King is peak Disney music. So what is your favorite Disney movie? And if you want to, give your thoughts on peak Disney music, you can do that as well. Anitra, how can people tell us what their favorite Disney movie is?
You can find us online. We will have a specific back talk post in the Family Gamers Facebook community. Get there by going to thefamilygamers.com/community or follow any of the Facebook links in the show notes. Or look for the Family Gamers community on Facebook. We will also have it posted in the Family Tabletop community on Discord. Of course, we are not the only people there, but we do like our little corner of the Discord.
We share our corner of the Discord with everybody else.
We do share our corner of the Discord.
We are friendly people sitting in the corner.
Yes.
Of course, you can always email us, Andrew@thefamilygamers.com.
Anitra@thefamilygamers.com. And you can find us all over social media of the internet. Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Family Gamers AA.
Mm-hmm. Please don't forget to subscribe to this show. Tell your friends about the show and leave us a review at Apple Podcasts or whatever your podcast subscription source is. You can find us on Amazon Music. You can find us on TuneIn, on Spotify, and even YouTube Music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Family Gamers is sponsored by First Move Financial. Go to firstmovefinancial.com/familygamers and learn how the team at First Move Financial can help you pile up the victory points.
Thanks again to the team there for sponsoring another episode of the show.
Well, that's going to be it for us this week. So until next week, as the Joyful Jedi reminded us, play games with your kids.